Hi, y'all. Okay, so I literally sprinted my butt upstairs the second I got inside the house and literally just grabbed all the equipment that I needed for. Oh my god. Oops, I'm so sorry. Equipment I needed for this live. My computer. My computer's actually resting on top of my stack of yoga blocks. And my phone, of course, water, gotta hydrate. I went out with my family. We went out walking and it is so hot. Like, okay, if anybody who has been to the South or currently is or was living in the South, it's smoking hot. Yeah, today's really warm. It's just, oh my god. But, anyways, yes, I am here. Good thing I made it home in time for this live. I am so excited to sit down and chat with all of y'all about this new topic. It's not really a topic, I guess it's a room. Well, maybe it's a topic. But I'm excited to kind of showcase another side of what it is that I'm interested in. And before we begin, I just want to say welcome to Closet Chats with Karina. Yes, I am named my lives. I think it's cool. Anyways, but yes, welcome. I officially changed the name and I like it. I think it's creative. And don't mind me if I look like a little bit of a mess. I'm still trying, I'm still cooling down from coming back from outside. But yeah. So today the topic is going to be about Bridgerton. If you don't know Bridgerton is actually based off a novels, correcting myself, novels with an S. Um, it's based on the novels. It's similar to Pride and Prejudice. It's around that era. A lot of woman and royalty and romance and tea and gossip, that kind of thing. So yes, that is where I'm at. That is what we're gonna be talking about today. And before we begin, I just want to say this is like not cooperating with me. I apologize. Before we begin, before I actually dive into this topic, into Bridgerton, I just want to say that today is the 17th. And for any of y'all who are K drama fans, would know, you would know that today is the East Palace K drama that officially is out. I've been waiting for a year for that drama to come out. But that's topic, that drama, that conversation is maybe for another time. Right now, we're going to talk about Bridgerton. So get your tea, your coffee, water, whatever else you want to drink. Get them out. Let's begin. Okay, so Bridgerton. I made a list. I always do. I find it helpful. So I'm gonna start from the very top, and then we're just gonna go down the line. So I have to admit, when Bridgerton actually first came out, I was very uninterested to the show. Like I was kind of like, it's just one of those other romance that anybody would know, anybody would watch, or something you find in a book. And I just thought that maybe it was one of those TV shows where it wasn't gonna be that interesting. So that's why I was kind of hesitant to watch Bridgerton. So let's see. I think it was the first 2 years when the season one and season two were both released, and I knew about the show. Like I've heard the name. It's gone. It was on. It's viral. I've heard about it, but I didn't really do enough research to actually get myself under into the topic of Bridgerton, and so I had a conversation with my mom, and my mom was telling me, she's like, if you like Pride and Prejudice, you're gonna love Bridgerton. So I sat down and I thought, okay, I am a huge hardcore fan of old school romance. Like I love love letters, flowers, and like this old school kind of romance. So if you know Pride and Prejudice, it's all about poetry and romance and wine and women empowerment and standing up for yourself and all of that good stuff. So I thought about it. I was like, everyone talks about Bridgerton. Maybe I should consider actually giving it a try because I haven't even seen it. So why am I judging it? As saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. So I decided to give it a shot. And I went right into season one. season one of the story of Daphne, Bridgerton, and Duke Simon. So I watched the very first episode, and that intro got me right away. I was like, wow. It's not only is it captivating, but it makes you sit there and it makes you wonder who's the next person? Like, what are they gonna say next? Like, Lady Whistle Down. Whistleton. I think I just butchered her name. I think I did. I just realized I did butcher her name. Oh well. My apologies. It's been a very long, hot day. Forgive me, okay? But I watched the first episode. I'm like, I love the outfits. I love the aesthetics. I love the theme. I love the era. I love the hair. The men are handsome. The women are so beautiful. And the Bridgerton family is so unique. At first, I was a little confused, but then eventually I got into it and I understood that the Bridgerton it revolves around the Bridgerton family. You know, each sibling, each child of their love story that they have when they're adults. So season one was about Daphne and, her trying to find a husband, a suitable man who she can marry, and her brother is supposed to be helping her with that, but she runs into some complications and then she ends up meeting the Duke and they form an alliance, and that alliance is them pretending to be lovers to fool everybody so that no woman, no mothers would bother him, and that men would want to marry her or want to pursue her. So um that was for the pretty much the whole of season one. I mean, there's obviously more to it, but there's a good romance to it, and I actually really enjoyed that show. Now, I I actually binged pretty hard watching Bridgerton of season one because after the first episode, I'm like, I have to continue watching this. I have to continue watching the rest of the show. So I finished season one Bridgerton, and when I got to season two, it was Anthony, which is I believe he's the oldest son, if I remember correctly. He's I believe like the oldest son, but it was his turn for his love story, his romance, his life to bloom in season two. However, I found it really hard for me to actually get through that season. I think it's because I'm not as fond of Anthony compared to Daphne. So I found it really challenging for me to actually sit through with the show. I think, maybe two episodes in. I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. I don't know. I've read some reviews. Some people have mentioned that it was also really challenging for them to get through season two of Bridgerton. I think it's the pacing of the story. I don't know what it is, but I was not drawn to his romance as much as it was compared to season one. So it was really difficult for me to actually get through that. And I was like, this is actually really challenging. This is actually a really hard time for me to watch this. This is just not for me. So I dropped season two, and then when I heard season three was gonna come out, I'm like, fucking out, like yes, because it's Colin and Penelope. So you gotta admit, I think season one and season three are like my favorites. But yeah, so that's how I got into the show. Now, speaking of my favorite love stories of all times. Okay, this is still in the context of Bridgerton. So if you look at the big show, the big series of Bridgerton, and then they branch it out to Charlotte, Queen Charlotte and King George, their love story. So they have their own mini series. It's just one season, but they have their own mini series to the side where you get to see how Queen Charlotte and King George, how they met, how they had an arranged marriage, and the complications they went through with their marriage and what they went through and the challenges they went as a couple and how she helped him and all the stuff. But so if you have not seen that one, I highly recommend you watch that one because that one's actually really good. In the Bridgerton series, you do see a lot of Queen Charlotte where she is now as like an older woman, and she's the one who is showing up the parties and everyone loves her, everyone respects her. But in the miniseries, of Queen Charlotte and King George. King George. That's the story of how they met, their arranged marriage, as I said, and their love story, how it blossoms. And I find it absolutely beautiful. So, yes, one of my favorite all-time love stories that I absolutely just cannot stop fangirling over about. Definitely have to say the Bridgerton series of Queen Charlotte and King George. That one is definitely one of my favorites. I say that because in that one, I actually didn't even know. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even know that they had a series of their own until I found out, and I want to go watch it. And Queen Charlotte, she is like this very confident, strong will woman who does not back down, and she says what she thinks. She's blunt, but she's honest, and she says it with, she says it out of place where it's genuine and it's authentic. And she has a brother, and so in that story it goes into play where she's supposed to be marrying King George, and but she doesn't want to marry him because she doesn't want to marry him. She doesn't want to marry a guy that she doesn't know, and so she's trying to climb over this wall and escape. And King George shows up, and he shows up. And he's like, "What are you doing?" She just looks over, like, "Are you gonna help damsel in distress who's trying to get over a wall?" So she finds out in that moment that, oh, he's King George because he introduced himself. So it's like, oh, there you go, the first encounter. But that love story is actually so beautiful because if you don't know, King George actually has like I can't remember if it was like an illness or like a mental health thing. It was something. He was diagnosed with something and he struggled a lot. His doctor like did these horrible things to him. And so Queen Charlotte, she really helped him out of that darkness and kind of helped him get back to his feet, helped him to be find the light. She was like the light for him when he didn't have anyone to rely on. And so some of the lines that they have in there was just so beautiful. And I remember thinking like, wow, it's so deep. She's so compassionate and she has so much devotion and affection towards this man. And it's amazing to see how she went from not wanting to marry him to falling in love, and they create and build this life together, and it's romantic. But yeah, it's actually one of my favorites. Yes. Okay. Now, I had a burp. I'm sorry. So my second favorite love story is Daphne and Simon. Okay, so before I get further into this, I know a lot of people say that, oh, it's Simon the Duke. He's so toxic. He's got issues. He's got problems. Daphne deserves better. Okay, so I'm just gonna make this very clear. I'm gonna say this once. I'm not here to like explain about his life, but I'm here to kind of just speak from my perspective and what I see in Duke and the Duke's character, what I see from my perspective, my perception of him. So he grew up. His mother passed away from childbirth, but his father wasn't really a father figure, and so I feel like the Duke, he grew up not having that kind of role model, and how his father wasn't really a man worthy to be called a father, who wasn't really there in his life. He'd done things that, Simon wasn't okay with. Simon was not supportive of some things. And so I feel like as he grew up, he ended up kind of, it's like a childhood wound that he has created for himself. It's no, I wouldn't say for himself, but the good amount of it comes from his father, and then the other half, it's like self infliction. Now, I think that Simon's actually avoidant. I see him. He has like an avoidant attachment where he is very intimate with other women. Because okay, back then in that era, a lot of men were like that. So, but as I'm going on, he was very intimate with other women. However, he was the type to run away from commitment. He had, he wasn't very into commitment, and he had like inconsistency issues, and he was somebody who was avoidant because he didn't receive that type of love. And that's what I see from my perspective. He didn't have that kind of love. And so I don't blame him for the way how he is portraying himself, because that's like a protective mechanism that he's got, that he's done so far to kind of protect him and help him survive from what everything he's gone through, he's experienced, that traumatizing childhood. And so I know a lot of people say that, oh, he's such a toxic guy. He's like, well, if you take the time to actually understand him, yes, everybody has some kind of wound to their childhood or their adolescent years. However, you can't blame a person for being toxic without also holding compassion for them. Like, yes, he is responsible for his behaviors and for him to heal. However, at the same time, it also makes you feel really sad for the character, because he had to admit that he longed to be loved, that he admitted that he wanted to be loved, that this is what he wanted. He didn't want to be alone. He told Daphne that when they were already married, when they were having marriage issues. And so when he met Daphne, they created that alliance, but what he didn't know was that he would end up falling in love with her for real. And while the prince was trying to sway her to convince her to marry him and become the princess of another country, he became very distant and frustrated and uncertain. And of course, I don't blame him, because he was somebody who suppressed and numbed his own feelings. And it was very clear that he was in love with Daphne. And Daphne was the type of woman where she knew what she wanted, and she chased after a guy who couldn't give her what she wanted, couldn't give her the life the future that she needed, and the security and the safety. However, she didn't give up, because she knew that she had loved him, and that, if it was something that he wanted, she was right here waiting for him. And if he's something that he didn't want, then she was more than willing to leave. But in that love story, it starts off as them meeting, like the most unusual encounter, and then they kind of they form an alliance. As I said, they form an alliance, and then they become really good friends, and then slowly it's like a slow burn. They end up falling in love, and then they had no choice but to get engaged because somebody else caught them. And so it's just like a kiss scene, but you know, back then. But they got caught, so they had to get married. And in the beginning of their marriage, it was a little unhappy. They went through a lot of turmoils, and eventually he turned around and they made it through. Yay. But yeah, it's one of my favorite love stories. And again, as a reminder, this is not me defending his character. I'm just speaking from how I see him. I understand his pain, and I feel a lot of empathy for him, and a lot of empathy and sympathy for this character, because everybody deserves to be loved. And I know that Karen character was kind of difficult to watch. I know how some people were saying that, oh, he's so annoying, he's so toxic, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's like, well, you can't necessarily blame him. You gotta look at it from a different perspective. Don't just be so blinded and point fingers. You gotta look at it from a different angle, understand, okay, this is what he's going through. Okay, got it. So yeah. Now, okay, my third favorite love story, like, of all time. I'm gonna be straightforward and honest. Season 3, Colin, Bridgerton, and Penelope. Now, so if you have seen Bridgerton, you would know that the first two seasons, Penelope was like this very shy, introverted. She could like confine herself, and she had shrunk herself to be around other people, and she kind of just outcasted herself compared to everybody else, because other people they tend to look down on her or belittle her. And in season 3, she really came out of her shell like hard, and I, for one, was so proud of that woman. When I saw her in season three. I was like, holy buckets, this is her season. This is her time to shine. Wow! I was so happy. I was like, oh. But yeah, I was really, really happy. I was like, oh my god. But to be honest, she had an immense character growth. Like the way how she grew, it was just so phenomenal to see her from here and going up. Like, this is who I am. You take it or you don't. I don't care. And nothing's more attractive. Nothing is more attractive when a person is they truly embrace and love themselves. I find that so fulfilling, and like, that makes me want to love you more. You know. So, but and it's such a beautiful love story. So Vanellope and Colin are actually best friends. Or I guess you say friends. They're friends, but she starts to have feelings for him. So in I think season one, I believe he left. In season one or two, he left, and then season three, he didn't leave the show, but he like his character went out to travel or something like that. And then in season three, he returned, and he became like a man. So Colin, I was not really fond of Colin season one because I was like, you look like a little baby boy. Okay, I'm just gonna put you aside. But in season three, like he grew up, he looked like a man. I was like, wow, he looks good. Okay, so but yeah, he grew up. He had a glow up, and she had a major glow up too. I'm like, okay, this girl, she working hard. But I I love it. But they started off as friends, but in season three, she starts to develop these romantic feelings towards him, and she feels, I guess you can say, a little conflicted and a little unsure if these feelings were okay to have for somebody who was just a friend. And he didn't see her that way, like at all. He didn't see her that way at all. And it was, I was, it wasn't until, gosh, it's been so long since I watched season three, but it wasn't until later on when I think they had shared a kiss, and he ended up having dreams about her, and at that moment it kind of like it did something to his brain, like, oh, Penelope's actually a very attractive woman, and I think I'm falling for this person who is my friend. So it's really nice to see because he only sees her as a friend from the very beginning, but later on he begins to his perspective changes, like, oh, she's actually a beautiful woman, she's very empowering, she's actually quite delicate, she's so graceful, she's elegant. He sees that, and the way how they had those camera angles and the way how they portrayed it from his perspective, and when he looks at her when she's like going into the ballroom and she's wearing that dress, and he like pauses and he stops and he just looks at her, kind of like that oh, your jaw has dropped to the floor, but it's with your eyes. And the way he looked at her, I was like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. And so I was like, wow. Eventually, it gets to the point where he ends up falling in love with her. So she fell first, but he fell harder. Like, hard. He fell really, really hard. He fell hard for her. And so, I think in that moment, he couldn't stop his heart anymore. And he was like, I need to talk to you. I need to be near you. And he gets kind of like jealous whenever another guy another lord dances with her. And so while she's on the marriage market, he's doing whatever he can to get her attention. And of course, the iconic scene, the iconic carriage scene that everyone is obsessed with. But I before that steamy part, before that part, I'm talking about the before, not the after effect. Okay. So before, when they're in the carriage and he's like running at the carriage and he's like, wait for me, Penelope. So their carriage stops and he gets in and she's like, what are you doing? And of course they didn't sound like that, but you know what I mean. Like, what are you doing? And he starts confessing his love for her. And that moment, I was like, oh my god. I remember holding my breath. I was like, oh my god, he's confessing. Oh my god, he's doing it. And she's like, she says something like, but Colin, we're friends. And he's like, oh, right, we are. And then she was like, but I want to be more than that too. And yeah, and everything else is just history. But that love story was so beautiful. Now, in season three, I do know that a lot of people were upset about the wedding because there was a lot of misunderstanding between Colin and Penelope, where they kind of got in an argument. And the wedding is supposed to be, as we know, weddings are supposed to be a happy moment, celebration of a new couple, um, a new life that's being built together, bringing two people who are becoming one. And unfortunately, the wedding was a little. No, I'm gonna be very honest. Is that I was I was expecting more for the wedding, but it's okay. It's kind of like it's okay. So, but yeah, those three, um, Queen Charlotte and King George, Daphne and Simon, Colin and Penelope. Those are my absolute favorite Bridgerton love stories. Now, if we're gonna talk about like the romance in Bridgerton, it is out of this world. Like, girl, I can like kiss the stars and come back. That's how good it is. Like, people don't talk like that anymore. People don't sweet talk like that. People don't say stuff that are so deep and meaningful. You think about it. It's kind of sad. That's why they have TV shows and novels for you to read and drown yourself into that and fall in love. Or but yes, I have to admit the romance in there is so beautiful. The things that they say to each other, like the dialogue, it has so much depth. Like the part where Daphne was telling Simon, like, I burn for you. I'm like, wow. And the part where Queen Charlotte was asking King George, like, do you love me? And he was like, I loved you since the day you climbed over that wall. I was like, oh my god, this man. Oh, it was such a very heartfelt moment, to be honest. And I gotta tell you, the dances and the choreography and the outfits are just amazing. I honestly, if I was in that era, I'd be like, where's my phone? I need to take 1,000 photos of myself everywhere. I would be that kind of person. And but yeah. So moving on forward. Bridgerton season four, which came out this year, I believe. Season four? Yeah. Season four came out this year, which was is Benedict and who was this female lead name? Was it Sophie? I forgot, but I did not really watch season four because I was actually a little disappointed. Yeah, I know I'm so quiet you can hear the crickets, but I honestly was not very impressed with season four. And I'm one my intention is to say is that it's just another typical Cinderella story, but it's not with the glass slipper, it's with the missing glove. So I don't know. I mean, I like her in season four, the female lead that they had, because one, she was really pretty and she did really well for her role. And then Benedict, I was also really excited for him because I was like, finally we get a love story for him. Like, yes, our boy is finally grown up. However, I was really bummed with season four because it's like one of those typical love stories, Disney love story, like Cinderella. Like really, the glass slipper. I watched the first episode, season 4, and they're dancing, their encounter. It was actually really cute. My favorite part is when they are outside and it's kind of foggy and they're slow dancing, and then he like takes off her glove and then he like kisses her knuckles. I was like, oh wow, how sweet. But everything else about the show, I was like, just this is how I feel. It's not bad. The soundtrack was great. The soundtrack of Bridgerton is always really good, but I don't know. The storyline was just not. I wasn't feeling it. You know what I mean? I was just not feeling it. I was like, I'm not feeling it. But okay. Now, moving on forth, I am so excited for season 5. Do you know why? Do you know why I'm excited for season 5? Okay, so everybody, the creators of Bridgerton and the author, what they're saying that there's going to be a little bit of woman love woman for season 5. And as if you know, this girl, me, I love those kind of stories. We need more stories like that, please. But holy buckets, when I heard the news and I looked at it and then read the article, I was like, oh my god, what? Now, I know there's like mixed fans are divided and there's like mixed reactions to season 5 of Bridgerton, which I understand because back then, it was like if you were a lesbian, you couldn't marry a woman because that's just the way how it didn't work. If you were gay, you couldn't marry a man. That's just because it wasn't like that back then. So, season 5, they intend on making a woman love woman story for season 5. And although I'm really excited for that, I am also kind of curious to know how they're going to make this work because how I don't know how the storyline is gonna go or how this is going to mesh well together, but I I am looking forward to it. However, I hope that it's promising and that it's not disappointing in season 4. So if y'all have watched Bridgerton, then of course you would know a lot about the tea of Bridgerton. Now, if you have seen it, please comment down below and let me know like what you think and what you are your personal thoughts of this because it matters. Know. I'm curious to know what you think too, or if you just got into it, that's great as well. But yes, I have to admit though, I am pumped for season 5. Now, if I were to rank all season of Bridgerton, I would have to say, okay, so season 1, I will give it a 9. I would give it a 9. I wish they gave I wish they show a little bit more of Daphne and Simon a little bit more towards the end of her story of their story when they decided that they were going to start a family and how he felt about that and how he overcame his childhood wounds and all that and how she helped him and how he got over that and how he healed. I think it would have been really nice. But yes, I give season 1 a 9 out of 10. Season 2, I didn't really watch season 2 unfortunately, so I watched like the first 2 episodes. I was like, yeah, I would give it like a 3 out of 10. I am, you know, if you love that second season, great. That's fantastic. You do you. Okay. Now season 3, oh, 9 out of 10. I don't need to explain. Moving on. Season 4, I would give it a 4 out of 10. I think it could have been better. They really shouldn't have followed the Cinderella story. Like, really? Come on. Like, come on. How much are we gonna do that. How often we're gonna keep repeating that kind of love story when we already know so much of it. So, but yes. Uh, and for season 5, I can't rate it yet because it's not out, and I'll be looking forward to it. But yes, woot, so exciting. Honestly, though, but yeah, Bridgerton is. I have not read the books. Those of you who have read the books, I'm pretty sure you know like what's different and what it is that needs to be changed and what doesn't need to be changed. But I don't know what like improvements. I haven't read the book, so I actually have no idea. But if you have and you know, comment down below. Let me know. Share. But yes, that is all for the time being. If you haven't yet, a reminder that the East Palace at Kingdom is officially out today, and ta-da! Yes, you should watch the show. It is a Korean horror. So if you are somebody who's not a fan of horror, you do not have to watch it. I recommend it, but no pressure. You do not have to watch it if you don't want to. But if you're somebody who is a fan of horror and you are into that, please watch it and let me know how you feel. I finished the first episode. I'm on episode 2 right now. I'm only I think 10 minutes in episode 2. I'm telling you, it's so dang good. I'm like, woo, rooting hard. But yeah, so that is all for today. Thank you for coming down and having a chat with me for just a little while, and while we enjoy talking about Bridgerton and just kind of spill the tea about the show and what we think and how we feel. But yes, thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful day and happy Friday. See you guys next time.